What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the show. I'm Livin 510. This is the first episode ever of Sports with Livin. Now, let's really think about what this means, right? Let's really think about what Livin Sports means. It means that every day you're doing about sports. Baseball's playoffs are going on this week, you guys. Obviously, the Baltimore Orioles didn't get it done, which is unfortunate. The A's didn't get it done, which is, again, unfortunate. But at the end of the day, you have to realize that the Tigers are just that good. The Yankees are just that good. Or are they? So right now, you guys, I want to bring in a special guest to talk about the baseball playoffs, to talk about the NL side of things. Seizmik, right there, popped up. What's up, man? So weird. So now we're going to talk about the NL side of things, more specifically, the Giants side of things. Now, all of his Xbox Live information, Twitter information, down below. Definitely go check him out. But let's get to the nitty-gritty here. Let me ask you these tough questions as a Giants fan, okay? So what do you think the biggest problem is with the Giants?
Well, first off, a lot of their pitchers aren't locating their pitches when they need to be, especially like in certain situations where last night was Carpenter, where even though he has a good batting average, it's just a really small sample against Kane, and Kane just made a pitch mistake, and Carpenter capitalized on it. Yeah. And hit it out. The middle of the order needs to produce. I mean, we're getting runners on like Scudero, and Pagan even has had a little of a power swing. He needs to be a little bit more consistent. Pagan does. And our lower part of the batting order with Crawford and Belts, and they're actually getting some good base hits. A lot more than our middle order. Like Posey, they pitched around. St. Louis has pitched around him, and as well as Pence. Where do we begin with Pence? I mean, he just needs to get those timely hits, not trying to do too much. I kind of see him as trying to do too much. I mean, yeah, his speeches are great, but you need to put those into action. You need to put the bat on the ball first off. I mean, he's not even getting really any contact too much. No. It's strikeouts more than getting actually the ball in play, which he could actually probably maybe talk to Scudero more about, because Scudero's at least getting the ball in play, even though and that has improved like his on base percentage, because anything can happen when the ball's in play.
Exactly. So. Okay, well, thank you so much, but let's actually, I'm going to ask you a tough question, okay? Tough questions. I'm going to ask you tough questions. And we talked about this a lot on Xbox Live, is Buster Posey. You are a huge fan of Buster Posey, but I'm going to switch it out on you, buddy. I'm going to switch it out on you and say this. Buster Posey was great during the regular season, but he's not really performing in the postseason. Is it all mental? Is it just mental, or does he just suck?
Well, first off, I mean, he did well in the NLDS. I mean, he was able to hit that grand slam, as you could see, and true. As well as he got on base a few times. But again, now St. Louis, they know how big of a threat he is, and so they've kind of pitch located him more on the outside corners instead of in his sweet spot. Going back to Pence, he hasn't done anything this whole playoffs yet, except for a couple hits in the NLDS, but we already passed that. So now we're in the big time for him to step up and protect Posey.
Talk about Tim Lincecum. I would assume that obviously being a Giants fan and being really knowledgeable about baseball, you're probably a Tim Lincecum fan. Is that correct?
I'm good. I definitely like Lincecum, but there are some finer points that need to be tweaked with him.
Okay, then here's my question, okay? So Tim Lincecum obviously used to be great, but he's not anymore. Why is it? Is it all mental, or does he just not have his stuff anymore?
Well, he kind of said it himself, where he was like in the couple of setup performances that he did out of the bullpen. I mean, that's all he had to focus on was just strikeouts, and instead of going prolonged innings. Yeah. And like right now in these playoffs, for sure, I would have him split with Zito, so they combine in 2 games. 2 games, not 2 games, but like 1 game. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. So like one pitches the first half of the game and the other pitches like the second half. So then you can gauge a little bit more where they're at. So I would say have Zito start because I mean the Giants are riding high with when Zito's on the mound this year, which is surprising. I mean, like I was always frustrated with Zito, like it's ridiculous. But now this year they've actually been able to score with him pitching for whatever reason. It's the baseball gods.
Yeah.
They're talking. They're saying score some runs so then Zito can actually pitch effectively, and when he does, then you can have him go for 4 or 5 innings, and then have Lincecum go like the 3 innings. 2-3 innings, and then you can bring in a closer or setup man. So that's what I would do, like especially right now in these playoffs, is to get Zito starting, then Lincecum right behind him in that same game, and then you can finish him off with the bullpen.
So now a follow-up question to what you just said. So, Game 7 of the World Series, you got Lincecum and you got Zito. Who are you putting out as your starting pitcher in Game 7, a must-win of the World Series?
I'd put Zito in there first. I mean, if he's going to score if they're going to score like a couple runs of him off of him, like in the first or second inning, then you have that insurance with Lincecum, because you would have him warm up like beginning of the game, so then he can come in like in the middle of the game or like early on if Zito gives up a couple runs. So then he'll just only be focused on strikeouts. I mean that's what Lincecum is pretty good at. I mean, is the strikeouts. You saw it still this season. Like his strikeouts were there, he just wasn't getting the strikeouts when he needed them to, like at the end of innings.
Thank you so much. I got one more question before you get out of here. Let's say the Giants make it to the World Series. Do you seriously think that they have a chance against the Detroit Tigers? This high-powered offense?
Oh, yeah. I do seriously think that. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in that position if they could hypothetically be there. I mean, if they got there, then they earned that spot.
Yep,
and, of course, they can contend. I mean, everybody said the same thing when they went up against the Rangers, who had a superior lineup and an equal amount of pitching to the Giants. So the Giants can't compete. It's just a matter of their consistency, like throughout their whole batting order. They just need to be more consistent, like how they had been during the season. It's just everybody trying to go for singles and getting the occasional doubles and the occasional triples, and not trying to force the issue, which I believe is what Pender Pence is trying to do. Is he's trying to too much force the issue. So
yeah, he is.
All right, Seizmik, thank you so much for stopping by. Definitely, everyone, hit him up on Next Best Live. Hit him up on Twitter. That's down below, and you can talk to him all the time that you want. But now, get on my show, man. What the hell do you think this is? So now that I'm fully back in the main screen, now let's switch over to the AL side of things, all right? Now, for the AL, I figured that I'd bring in someone who is, again, very knowledgeable about baseball, you guys, and who has come on some of my shows before, okay? And that is Jared. And he comes to us courtesy of the Conejo Hotline. Yeah, I said it. He comes to us courtesy of the Conejo Hotline. Let's start right off the bat. Talk about the AL. Let's talk about the Yankees. They got swept. The Yankees got swept by Detroit Tigers. I didn't see this coming. Nobody else saw this coming. Did you see this coming? Don't tell me you did.
Going into this series, I really figured that that they would be able to at least pull off one game either behind Pettit or Kuroda. I had no faith in Sabathia whatsoever, especially when you look at his lifetime numbers against the Tigers and his lifetime postseason career numbers. But seeing as they didn't get that win behind either Pettit or Kuroda, I was shocked that, they were actually going to be in position to be swept, and ultimately they were swept.
Yeah, they were. And to be honest, I mean, the last game wasn't even close, obviously. And, no. I mean, is it a mental thing, like having lost in the extra innings? Ibanez hits that home run or whatever, and then they still end up losing. A-Rod getting benched, all that hype about that. Could that be a factor into this whole collapse, I guess?
I don't think so, because you've had guys like Cano who throughout the season have been reliable bats that they can lean against to try and drive in runs um, in a big way. And unfortunately, Cano's been just unable to hit at all during this postseason.
Mm-hmm.
Granderson was unable to hit at all during the postseason. Teixeira just couldn't find a way to drive in runs. They lost Jeter, who was probably their hottest bat besides Ibanez throughout the postseason. A lot of things kind of compounded into a really ugly mess, and I don't think it was so much mental as it was that guys just kind of fell into a slump at the wrong time.
Speaking of slumps, let's talk about Alex Rodriguez for a second. A-Rod, who got benched, okay? I mean, how can you possibly bench one of the best hitters this game has ever seen?
Well, I wouldn't say one of the best hitters the game has ever seen, but that's just me. I've never been a big proponent of A-Rod, especially when you look at his postseason numbers. If you take away all of his at-bats against the Minnesota Twins in particular, his numbers in the postseason really don't show, that kind of prolific hitter that you would expect him to be.
Okay.
I don't know so much about the benching because I do like the depth that the Yankees have for their bench. I've always liked it throughout this entire season. But to kind of bench him in a pivotal spot, knowing what we know about him as a postseason hitter career-wise, not so much a great idea simply because your options behind him aren't really reliable in themselves. Eric Chavez, we all know he's been very injury prone throughout his entire career. His defense has kind of fallen off as a result of those injuries. If not Chavez at third, then you have to switch over Eduardo Nunez, and we can't do that anymore because Jeter's hurt now.
Yep.
So really, they were playing with fire there, knowing that without A-Rod, at least being a body at third base to play defense, you were kind of putting yourself in a losing situation.
All right, but now let's talk about Derek Jeter. Do you think that this is his last year, his last hurrah? I mean, he had a great season this year, but wasn't this season a fluke? I mean, obviously, wasn't that a fluke?
I don't see it so much as a fluke. I really thought I think I had gone on record before, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, saying that he would be done by this season.
Mm-hmm.
That this would be his last season. But he's kind of bounced back in a way that kind of shows that he still has enough spring in his step, that he's still able to see the ball and spot it up really well at the plate. I think with this injury, it might put in some doubt as to his future moving on beyond next season, but I do see him coming back next season ready and willing to play. Will he be an everyday player? I'm not entirely sure because, with an injury like this, and with his age, it might be something that, completely hinders him for the remainder of his life because he's up there in age, let's be honest.
Yeah.
And I don't know how this is going to affect him defensively. They may have to switch him out of the shortstop position. That may be a blessing for A-Rod, who's been dying to kind of get back over there.
Can he still play shortstop? A-Rod?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Still. Yeah, he still has the range.
Yeah,
I think that'll help him out. The fact that he still has that range.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you're right, and it would be weird to see him back at shortstop, but that is a possibility. And like you said, that's something that he wants to do again. So it'd be interesting to see him there. If you were in charge of the New York Yankees at this point, would you trade Alex Rodriguez or would you keep him on?
Oh, if I were in charge, I'd be looking for anyone and everywhere to try and trade him.
Really?
I'm calling up Japan.
What? No way. This is one of the best hitters ever. Come on.
I understand that, but in my position, I'm looking at it more from the financial standpoint, in that he's a bit of a liability there. He's getting up there in age. His production has kind of started to slip off a little bit. We don't know if that's going to become the trend or if this is just a really bad season for him. Personally, I think with the antics that he's had off the field, the steroid issue that's been circulating around him for a while has kind of diminished his value as a star. I think the Yankees are definitely gonna want to keep him just because there's almost no team that's willing to take on that contract and no team that's willing to take on an aging player who has throughout his entire career just not shown up in the postseason. I don't see them being able to win out in a trade at all. They're going to have to eat up that entire contract in order to get him off.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Detroit Tigers real fast, too, because I don't want to take anything away from them. They did, win against my Oakland A's, which was really, really hard to watch. But then they, swept the Yankees. So how good are the Tigers? Like, can they beat the NL winner, whoever it is?
If you had asked me this about a month and a half ago, I probably would have laughed at the idea that they even make it into the ALCS.
Yeah.
So this is a team that I really thought was dead in the water because realistically going into this season, they didn't really do enough to that lineup to change it up in a drastic enough fashion. All they did was replace an injured Victor Martinez with Prince Fielder. You're going to get the same kind of production, except this time it's on the left side of the plate. Mm-hmm. I didn't like that they didn't go out and get themselves a legitimate second for the rotation. I feel like it's Verlander or nothing. I love Doug Fister. I love how he is possibly one of the better postseason pitchers that this young generation has produced so far, but I don't feel like he is a true number two. I like the Anibal Sanchez trade now that I've seen how it's kind of panned out for them. Yeah. At first, I wasn't a fan of it, but he's really stepped up in a big way. I think he's matured a lot as a pitcher on this deal, but he's still not a number two.
Yeah, it's been amazing to watch the transformation, like you said. Going into the postseason, like 2 weeks before the postseason, when we were talking about this, I don't think any of us said that the Detroit Tigers were going to make it. I could rewind the tape and look at it again and read it and stuff, or whatever, listen to it. But they really kind of came out of nowhere, and now they're establishing themselves as like a juggernaut power, which everyone thought that they were going to be. And like you said, you mentioned their pitching. Verlander is such a game changer. He's really such a game changer that me personally, I was like, okay, so you got that one game changer guy, but then who else do you have? And that was one of the biggest problems. And a big kind of shout out to their starting pitchers who have been able to step up and hold teams to manageable situations. Obviously, got clutch hits when they need to get clutch hits. But one thing I think that's going to hurt them is in the World Series is going to be their bullpen. You saw Valverde not really close out games like he should have been doing in the playoffs. He was a liability. I'm just going to say that. I'm going to say it. He was a liability. So I think that's going to maybe hurt him in the World Series. But, what do you think is going to hurt him in the World Series?
I'm really thinking it over, and I don't see a whole lot of weaknesses there. I understand that some people may say that the bullpen, I didn't see it so much that I like the bullpen. Valverde was definitely a liability. I do agree with their decision to stick with a closer by committee as opposed to just trying to throw him out there and see if he'll eventually right himself. I think the thing that might sink them is I think I'm going to go back to the starting pitching. I think if Fister doesn't set the tone behind Verlander, because we all know Verlander's just going to set the tone. That's just what he does. Yeah. If Fister doesn't set the tone, I think we could possibly see Sanchez or Scherzer kind of fall to the pressure of the situation. Yeah. They didn't do that here in this series against the Yankees, and they had every opportunity to do so. Given the fact that it's the Yankees and they have possibly one of the toughest lineups you're going to face, at this point in the game.
No doubt.
But I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, if it comes down to the Cardinals, those two could be really easy to pick off in terms of picking up wins for the Cardinals. If it's the Giants, we could see maybe 5 or 6 games, in favor of Detroit.
All right, Jared, thank you so much for stopping by. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. He'll definitely be back, you guys. Definitely check out his channel. And he actually has a new series coming out.
Yeah, I'm doing a lot of NBA 2K13 Blacktop.
Guys, thank you so much for watching. Definitely hit a like, definitely subscribe. I know this is a long video, but I really wanted to jump into baseball. We will definitely talk about basketball. This hasn't really started up yet, so because of that, I want to focus on baseball right now until baseball ends. And then obviously, basketball will start up. And then obviously, we may get in some football here and there. So definitely hit a like, definitely subscribe if you're new. And also, definitely check out Conejo. Check out everyone's link down below. Until next time, Live 510, and I'm out.